Welcome back to the channel, guys. I'm back with my third episode of my painting weekly updates. And I do apologize for the background. I am getting ready to play some Otherworld Fantasy with Donnie. I will hopefully record games, just need to sort some things out. But for this week's painting, it's not too many models, but really interesting ones, I think. So sit back and enjoy. And guys, here are the 6 models I've painted. I'm happy to share that 5 out of the 6 come from Talisman 2nd edition, so I am getting much closer to having all of the miniatures painted. So we're going to start with the Swordsman. Here is the character card from the 2nd edition. I do love the, I guess, pose of the model. Unfortunately, it no longer is that special. There are about 8 to 9 different classical Citadel miniatures that has a gigantic sword pointed down. When I first got the miniature, I thought he was a one-of-a-kind. It was really cool. And then I have now 4 more in my possession, so he's not that special anymore. In-game, this guy is not bad, but not great. Very average strength and craft. And all he does is he can disarm characters. If he wins, he just knocks a weapon out of the hand. So pretty generic. Painting wise, it is very classically, old hammer, and I'd say very generic Empire. I know the new painting scheme the old world is doing is blue and white, but with the red and yellow, I forgot where it's supposed to be, but it's like the most iconic Empire painting. So let's go to the miniature itself. I'm very happy with how he turned out. I'd say my non-metallic on this model is a lot more cartoony and stylized, which I personally don't mind, as if you look at this model, he really is old and charming. I'd say I had a lot of fun with the sword and potentially the knee pads. I'm not too happy with what I did with the chainmail around his neck, but I'm not sure what else to do besides dry brushing it, and I feel like if I were to dry brush the chainmail neck part, it would detract from the rest of the model. Had a lot of fun painting the yellow. It was pretty straightforward. Relied a lot more on using, I think it's Centaur yellow, and then just adding a few highlights, here and there. Really love the model, and he matches the Bard from Talisman quite well and the Warrior. So I can soon make a warband of very old school looking Empire-esque miniatures. So here is the Swordsman. And then for the helmet, really went goofy with it by putting those small reflective dots. I'm not sure if it kind of conveys the message it's metal, but I'm happy with him. So he's done. Let's move along to the Ranger. Here's the Ranger card for Talisman. The artwork is a little bit goofy. I'd say the hood is quite large in the portrait, but I did love the, yellow, orange, brown, and the green combination. It's a bit generic, but I really like it. In-game, very straightforward. I'd say, like the Swordsman, nothing too significant to talk about. Yeah, he's just pretty generic. And then the miniature itself, I really adore. Let me see if I can focus in. I'm sorry about that, guys. My window's behind me, and it's quite bright today. Miniature, I do like it. However, the face is the only part that's a little bit derpy. He kind of matches the elf from Talisman. But this model, I had a ton of fun painting the brown. I leaned a lot more into that artwork. So I believe I started with charred brown from Vallejo, worked my way up through Mornfang brown into Uriel yellow, I believe. And I'm very happy with the result. I was worried as I was following the artwork that it'd be too much brown on the whole model, but now that I see it in person, he does look cool. And quite small for a human model, but yeah, just I'm very happy to have this guy. So when I play any dungeon crawl board game or skirmish games, I have a good looking ranger. I'd say I like his boots, like these high, almost thigh length boots. I feel like you don't see a lot of this nowadays. So I think he is quite distinct in that nature, especially on a ranger model. I feel like a lot of rangers just have, I guess he has bland clothing, but the boots just make the model look um, so unique. And then again, just my straightforward non-metallic to give it that pop. Probably the fastest paint job out of the group. Probably, I want to venture to say an hour and 10 minutes, but very lovely model and excited to use him in any fantasy game. Moving along, I think I'm going to show you guys the Gladiator. So the Gladiator is actually, I've only played him once in Talisman, and I think I had a lot of fun with him. It's been a long time. Essentially, you're going to train your followers to add more strength to your guy. However, if you lose combat, that follower will die. So very fitting for the Gladiator. His artwork is ugly. I'm going to be very honest with you. The proportions are all off. I don't understand. Maybe he's supposed to be lunging at you, but with the way they drew it, it looks terrible. But the color choices are interesting, which was a fun challenge to try to reproduce. So let's go to the miniature itself. So he looks like a scuba diver, but I like it. I know many would think he is an ugly miniature. This is one of the few old hammer models where not even with nostalgia glasses, he is ugly. There is no question into that. His proportions are wonky. He looks so odd. The helmet is enormous as well. But I did have a lot of fun painting him. So the artwork has this like metallic looking teal color. I could have maybe added a bit more green to it, but this is the result I landed on, and I am overall very happy with it. I know the yellow is very striking or jarring next to this. I want to say I used Cabalite green as a base with a Colia green shade wash highlighted up with, I want to say, bone white or off white from Vallejo. But following the artwork, let me pull it up one more time. So not quite an exact replica, but I think the yellow works more in the artwork because how thin the trim is. But when you try translating it to a model like this, it is quite busy. But again, I'm very happy with him. I can use him for a lot of different I guess roles in tabletop games. He could count as a thug, a evil NPC. He could be I'd say in otherworld fantasy, he could be a merciless warlord. It was really fun painting at least the eyes in the helmet. This one a bit harder to see on camera, but had a lot of fun with this one, and I'm happy he's done. Moving along, we'll look at the ninja. So this is the character card, and I know for those who collect Talisman 2nd edition, what I will say may be blasphemous, but I hate the model. He does look like this, but in even stranger proportions. That does sound very hypocritical because all old hammer miniatures look kind of bad, but I love them. But this one was just too bad even for my taste. I do think he's the worst character in Talisman. If you can just follow along, he has no followers. He can't have a mule or horse, so you're always restricted on the objects you have. He can do like a cool secret strike, but I don't think it's that good. But the miniature I used is this classical citadel. I want to say this is the Ninja or Oriental Heroes range. So I have, as I mentioned in the miniature showcase, I own a lot of these models. I want to say I have about 25 different Citadel ninjas. I was going to do a Nippon project for the old world, but unfortunately never got off the ground. And I decided, since I have so many of them, I'd just use one of them for Talisman. So he is quite different than the character card, but I do think he is passable enough in the world of Talisman. So the reason you see this green here is if you look at the character card, his small knots and the belt are actually green. So I decided to go a bit extreme with it, and I'm actually quite happy with him. It was a bit rough trying to paint inside the little hood. You can see I got the eyes, but maybe for the next one I can leave it black because it's such a small detail that not many will notice. But I do think this green and white color scheme is very striking. And then I had a little bit of blue on his scabbard. And I'm actually going to paint probably 5 or 6 more of these guys to use in pulp games, and even some other world. Maybe make a warband of, evil ninjas, or these are occultists that just happen to be wearing this kind of garb. But very cool to have him painted up. And I guess eventually I will talk about the varnish I use. Sometimes with my darker colors, it has a slight satin finish. Overall, it is matte, but just sometimes on these darker colors, it still has a little sheen. I do like the varnish, so I will make a whole video talking about it. But yeah, moving along, we'll focus on the Centaur now from Talisman. So here is the Centaur, and another artwork that is quite ugly, unfortunately. Thank God the model looks better than the artwork. But this is one of the, I want to say, 2 characters in Talisman who can shoot you when you're walking around the board. So very, very cool. And this is Sam's, I think, next favorite character to play upcoming. So what he can do is he grabs centaurs as followers, he shoots you in the middle or outer region, and then he adds 2 to his movement. So quite mobile, and it's a very simple color palette. I do want to note the hair. So it looks either like indigo, maybe some blue or purple. I decided to go with more of a blue tone. And here is the miniature. So as I mentioned in my and sorry I keep having to be out of focus a little bit. The sunlight is so bright behind me that it's messing up the camera. But the model, as I mentioned in a few videos before, is simply amazing. I think there's some dust there. Yeah. My favorite Centaur model produced by Citadel, and he fits nicely on a 30mm base. Why he's on this base, I think I mentioned before. In Talisman, if I were to put him on the 25x50 cavalry base, he'd stand out a bit too much, and I do think he would obstruct a lot of the Talisman board. But by being on this base size, I do think it kind of makes sense for a Centaur. So in different fantasy games, why make him a cavalry model when he's like obviously a crossbreed between a infantry and a cavalry model? So give him a slight benefit on a smaller base. But moving along, I did have to angle him in a more upright position. I feel like if I put him flat down, it'd give less a dynamic pose. So now it looks like he shot someone and he's like surveying around. But this is what I mean by the blue. It's my new favorite way to paint black. It's by using, I think, Calgar blue and ultramarine blue. I think those are the colors. But like I mentioned, the artwork, it had a blue tone to it, so I wanted to keep in line with that. And had a lot of fun with the gold small accents on him, the green details, and the flesh tone. Really, really enjoyable on this miniature. And more so the horse. Again, he is more matte. It just depends on the lighting. My varnish has a slight satin look to it. I do love the varnish I use, so I will not be changing it. But this is one of the slight cons to using this varnish. But I know he is very protected, so it is worth it. But yeah, lovely model. Very happy to have him done. And I do have a couple more Centaur models from Citadel's Realm of Chaos days, but I may have to modify them to fit this a bit more. So, yep. So those are the 5 Talisman characters. And now for a model which obviously you can see this whole time in the background. One of D&D's most iconic monsters is the Beholder. And what a amazing and lovely miniature. I'm going to see if I can zoom in. Perfect. So I don't know what else to say other than if you can find this miniature, hunt it down. It was sculpted by, I believe, Nick Bibby, and he's known for his amazing detail. I'd say all of his sculpts have a lot of nice texture. Different than Bob Ollie, but he does have a lot of nice. I think his sculpting is quite unique. And now looking more at the Beholder itself, I leaned more into the Beholder. I'm gonna butcher his name. It starts with an X. I know he's like the Lord of Waterdeep, but I thought that blue and purple coloration would be nice. And if you notice, I'm glad the camera is picking it up. On his eye stalks, I made all the pupils of different colors. So we have red, yellow, green, and blue. And because I do think a lot of beholders are nowadays, they don't seem as threatening. They are aberrations, so I wanted to make him feel very uncomfortable. So I added that red glazes to all of the eyes, and I think it makes him look truly out of this world and something that you should be fearing. As in D&D, the original game, beholders were some of the scariest entities you could fight. And in Otherworld, this model by itself is 100 gold pieces, which in the games we've been playing, he comprises a whole warband to show you how strong and intimidating these guys are. And you can see all of the detail in the mouth for the teeth. Just a lovely, lovely model. This one was slightly damaged. I feel so silly I didn't notice it until I started painting him. This hole in the back of his head, it looks like maybe someone took like a hammer or something and smacked it in. I should have green stuffed and filled it in, but we can just say this beholder has some, war damage from all of the encounters he's had. And up top here, very fun painting the blue to the purple. So I will be honest, this model took a couple tries to paint. I thought I could rely purely on dry brushing. He looked so bad, I had to then rebase coat all of the scales and then just edge highlight everything. I realized that certain models you can't get away with cutting corners. Might as well just spend the time, especially for a model that is out of production. But love how all the eyes came out, and the basing itself is quite a feat in itself. So I wanted to again get away from the clarifying stance. I don't like them personally. I think too many models snap, and then you have that little clear peg stuck in the model, and if you try putting a pin through it, you can see it. So I had to be creative. I didn't want to put it, it is kind of centered on him. I meant to put him a bit more staggered, but it involved having a nice pin going through, gluing a lot of the smaller cork bark, and then filling it in with the drywall spackle. And it is quite, I mean, I don't know if you can hear that. The thing is durable. I'm not too worried. He is top heavy though. So if I put him flat, he's great. But even holding him like this, I can feel the weight of this lead and pewter miniature. I think these guys are a lead pewter mix. I'm not sure if they're white metal yet, but you can just feel the weight of him. Like if I let go, he just, just slips like that. There'll be no instance will he ever be tilted this far, but it is just one thing to note. But yeah, I think this is up to date, one of my favorite D&D miniatures I've painted. He is such an icon to the franchise, and if you do even like D&D 5% and you collect Warhammer, I encourage you to hunt them down. Not too pricey. I'd say you're looking at prices between $35 to $55. If any of the eye stalks are damaged, please pay less. The eye stalks are what gives the full value of the miniature, of course. However, I do have a project of a second one. I did buy one damaged, as I intend to make one of the variations of beholders from the early days of D&D. But yeah, so that's all the miniatures I have to share with you guys today. Very happy with the progress, even though it was just 6 miniatures. It's 6 cool miniatures. So with the holidays coming up, I don't know how much more I'll be able to paint, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like always, if you like what you're seeing, please like, comment, and subscribe. I've been enjoying reading the few comments that I do have talking about the history of Citadel, as it has a very special spot in my hobby life. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Stay safe and look forward to the next one.